Okay, so we've let our end walls dry out overnight with the caulk. It's not mandatory, but it is nice to not be getting all sticky with caulk. Caulk. On your end bows, there will be marked right there lines where your strap is going to go. And this is because when we put our top piece of Solexx on, it's going to come all the way down to the bottom of that aluminum strap. And this next piece of Solexx is going to come all the way up to the top of the aluminum strap. And that's where the overlap is going to happen. And so as this aluminum strap runs the length of your unit, it is going to hold those pieces of Solexx together that are overlapping and keep all the elements from getting out and under it. And so without further ado, we're going to get to work putting our first aluminum strap on this side, and we'll put it on the next side, and then we'll get our top piece of Solexx on. So what we're doing here, folks, is we are lining up the bottom and the top of our strap with those pre-marked lines we gave to you, and then we're going to clamp it in place. We cut these to exactly 12 feet because that is, in theory, how long your unit should be outside of tube to outside of tube. But if your unit happens to be a little closer, don't be afraid to go in and just cut your strap down to length. On this end, it sits on top of this door brace that comes around the tube, that brace band up top here, and that's okay. So we're going to pre-drill a hole just in the top of the aluminum strap all the way through the bow on both end walls with our 5/32 pre-drill bit. And this is where we're going to screw in a pan head screw, and that's going to hold this strap on while we continue to work on it. On your 2-inch strap, come down about 1/2 inch from the top of the strap. Line up on the center of the bow. So I've got my pre-drilled hole on this side. Nick is pre-drilling his side. Now that we've got it screwed onto the end bows up top there, Nick's gonna come and pre-drill on the interior bows. He's not gonna do it on the wind braces, just on the interior bows. He's gonna come down the same amount from the top of that strap, put a pre-drilled hole in there, sink a pan head, and that is what is gonna hold our strap to the frame. Okay, so we got this strap installed up top, and on this particular unit, 12 foot wide, it's going to have 2 overlapping seams of Solexx. So that means that each side is going to have 2 aluminum straps coming down. And so again, you'll have another set of marked lines on your end bows for where your strap is going to fall. And we're going to pretty much do the exact same thing that we did for that upper piece of strap on this second piece of strap. Okay, so some variation in the bow. This strap is too long for us to really use acceptably. It's just too long. So Nick is scoring it down there with a Sharpie. He's just making a little mark where it bumps into his Solexx there, and he's just gonna cut it down a little bit. We're back on the chopping block, just lining it up with our lines on the end bows, coming down the same distance as we did up top. So in the case of 2-inch strap, about 1/2 inch. I'm just putting yet another pan head screw. So Nick's finishing pre-drilling. We're gonna have our 1 pan head screw on each bow, holding that strap on there. And we are gonna do this exact same thing on the other side, where your bows will also be marked. You just line the strap up, pre-drill, sink a pan head, you're good to go. Exactly like we just did on this side. We got our strap mounted on both sides. Now we're gonna grab our top piece of Solexx. Okay, so we're gonna grab our top piece of Solexx. We're gonna get it all slid up on the top. On your unit, when you get this top piece of Solexx on, start by getting one side slid all the way down to the bottom of your strap, and then screw up your end bow and slide down the other side and get that flush with the bottom of your strap on the other side. So your Solexx should end flush with the bottom of your strap on this side and flush with the bottom of your strap on that side. And don't forget that you are going to be sliding another piece of Solexx in up to sit flush with the top of this strap. And so you don't actually want to sink your screws down all the way to prevent that Solexx from being able to slide up. We're just sinking a couple of screws in. You'll notice you'll have a good overhang over here of this piece of Solexx, you know, overhanging out on the wall. And we like to have a larger overhang. Lose my mind up in here. What's up? Okay, so Nick's up there. We've got most of our screws in all along our top piece of Solexx. The only screws we don't have in are the last ones at the strap where the next piece of Solexx is going to come in and the two are going to overlap. And so it's beneficial at this point to go through and pre-drill at each bow where your Solexx is going to overlap. So where you want to drill this hole is about 1/2 inch up from the bottom of the strap. He's going to go ahead and do that on both sides. Give you a little close-up of what I'm talking about here. A pre-drill 1/2 inch up from the bottom of the strap where that screw is. That's where you're going to pre-drill, and that's what's going to hold your two pieces of Solexx together. We got our next piece of Solexx. And so this is where it's really helpful if you got a third person. So because it's windy and we got 2 people instead of 3, Nick is going to get his side all the way flush with the top of the strap. And so bring this bottom piece up flush with the top of your strap and get the outside overhang lined up with the front of the unit. And Nick's going to put a screw in there into that hole that we just pre-drilled. And then he's going to come help get this tucked under this top piece of Solexx in the middle, because with the wind and 2 people, it's a little bit tricky. There we go. So now on my end, Solexx bottom piece all flushed up. Look at my pre-drilled hole. Get my screw in there. So yeah, you'll notice that the Solexx will bubble out and push out on you because it's been rolled up for so long. And this might influence your overhang on the side, but not to fret. As you push down and splay that Solexx out, it should restore order to your overhang. And what you can do is you can come and sink a few screws into the pre-drilled holes. Once we've gone through and gotten a couple screws and really leveled this Solexx out, tried to minimize the bubble in it, we're gonna come back to our end bows and we're gonna put all the screws in on both ends. To connect your 2 panels of Solexx, your top panel and this middle panel, you're going to connect them both at the overlap on the strap. So what Nick is doing is he is pulling between the 2 bows, which is 48 inches on center. We're marked every 6 inches, and that's where we're going to screw these 2 overlapping pieces of Solexx together. Where you do it on the strap, it's kind of up to you, but we like to do it more towards the middle. So I'm going to come up and I'm gonna do the same thing in this bay. Bingo, bango, bungo. So once they're all marked, take out my drill, 5/16 drive, and I'm gonna use these self-tapping screws, and I'm just gonna put a screw every 6 inches. We're gonna go down the entire length of the aluminum strap and sink screws every 6 inches. Just gonna give you guys a little close-up of what's going on. So that is where we marked 6 inches, and I put a screw in. These are the verticals. Your Solexx is going to come all the way down to the bottom of this, and the bottom pieces of Solexx are going to come all the way up and sit at the top. Measuring every 6 inches along the aluminum strap and sinking a Solexx screw, and we're just going to go down the entire length of the strap. This bay is the only one that we have left, and we're going to do that. So for bigger units, go ahead and repeat this process all the way down, however many panels you need to do, with however many pieces of aluminum strap you need to do. We are gonna pre-drill right there where we want our screws on the bows to go for the overlap. And so on each bow, again, we're just gonna come up from the bottom of the strap about 1/2 inch and pre-drill a hole through the Solexx strap and the bow. And then when we put our new piece of Solexx on and slide it all the way up to the top of the strap, we will put a screw through there and connect the 2 at the bows. All right, moving on, we got our last piece of Solexx for this side. It's gonna go right here. So it's gonna be the one that's cut in half, it's not gonna be your full panel size. So same song and dance as last time. We're trying to get it underneath this top piece. Okay, so I'm down to my end. Yeah, so I just screwed in where they're overlapping. I'm gonna screw at the bows where we just pre-drilled the holes. So I can now work down this end bow into all of my pre-drilled holes. I'm gonna be able to go through and go along the strap and do exactly what we did on that top one. I'm gonna pull tape every 6 inches and I'm gonna get a screw in there. So we got all our screws in on this side. So once we've got this side all montied up, screwed in all the way down to here, we're gonna go along our hip channel and we're gonna pre-drill holes and sink our Solexx screws in.
So we're pre-drilling this hole that's gonna be our last Solexx screw, our bottom Solexx screw, and it's gonna be in the hip channel and the bows. Underneath the Solexx, there's that panhead screw that attached this 3-inch aluminum strap for the hip channel. And then, you know, once we cut the Solexx, we're also gonna be putting on a piece of single channel flush with the bottom of this edge. So we need to drill where it's gonna be just above that single channel, but below this panhead. So it's right about in the middle, maybe just above the middle of that 3-inch width. So like right there. And if you want, you can hold up a piece of channel under there to double check your hole is gonna clear that. And not just the hole, but remember, you're gonna have that washer on the screw as well. So you'll see that's right below that panhead. And then that's still gonna leave room for us to put that channel at the bottom. So we're just going down, pre-drilling the bows, doing that same thing. All right, so now we've got the screws in that we pre-drilled on each of the bows. And we're gonna continue just like we did on all the rest of those pieces of aluminum. We got our Solexx marked every 6 inches now. This is where it's gonna get screwed in to that flange of the hip channel, and trying to keep it the same, you know, height as your screws on the end. But most importantly, it just needs to be higher than where the channel of the hip channel is gonna sit on there.
So you're gonna go all the way down the length of your hip channel and sink these screws. And then that's gonna be it for now for this side. You're gonna move on to the next side and you're gonna start with that middle panel and you're gonna do the exact same thing all the way down. So I got my box cutter. I'm just gonna roughly cut this Solexx at the bottom of this hip channel. Don't worry, it's not gonna be a perfect cut. We're gonna come back later. Okay, so I got that cut out. So the next thing is you're gonna have a piece of single channel that you're gonna mount into this aluminum strap here. And the key ingredient is that you wanna cut right above where that aluminum or that single channel is gonna sit on the aluminum strap. And so we have a jig. If not, it could be beneficial to pull up a little bit and mark 1.25 inches and potentially sink a screw or run a line all the way along, and that'll give you a nice straight edge to reference. Okay, so we got our Solexx off, and that's gonna let us just put our single channel in here, which is what our roll-up sides are gonna attach to. Bada bing, bada boom. Move on to the next side and get everything up until this point.
Yeah.